So, let's talk about Dalian. Or, to get the pronunciation right, Dalian. Now, when you hear that name, you probably picture a huge, bustling port city in China. And you're not wrong. But there's this whole other side to it, a reputation that hints at something, well, a little more magical.
You know, someone put it perfectly when they said, Dalian truly has romance engraved in its DNA. And that's not just some flowery travel blog quote. The city is famous all across China by a very specific nickname, the City of Romance.
So, that's the big question, right? How on earth does a major industrial port in northeast China get a title that sounds like it's straight out of a storybook? Well, let's peel back the layers and find out together.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it down. We'll start with its absolutely critical role as a gateway to the sea. Then we'll jump back in time to see the history that shaped it. After that, we'll look at its modern economic muscle, wander through its famous public squares, and finally, we'll put all the pieces together to understand that romantic coastal lifestyle.
First up, let's talk about the absolute foundation of this city, its role as the maritime gateway. I mean, this is the access point to the world for the entire northeast of China.
So, what exactly is Dalian? Well, officially Dalian, that's Dalian, is a major city in Liaoning province. But its real story, its significance, it all comes down to geography. Just look at where it is. Perched right on the southern tip of the Liaodong Peninsula, basically guarding the entrance to the Bohai Sea.
And when we talk about its connection to the water, I mean, it is huge. The city's mainland coastline alone is an incredible 1,906 kilometers long. This isn't just a city that happens to be near the sea. It's a city that is fundamentally defined by it. But here is the real kicker, the secret sauce, if you will. Dalian has this amazing, naturally deep water port that stays completely ice-free all year long. Now, in a region where a lot of other ports freeze solid in the winter, that is a massive, massive advantage. It makes it the lifeline for the entire region.
Now, you could imagine a location that valuable? It's going to be a prize. For centuries, people have wanted a piece of it. And that brings us right into our next chapter, a city literally forged by history, from its time as Russian Dalny to the modern Dalian we see today.
This timeline really tells the story, doesn't it? Before 1898, it was just a little fishing village. Then, boom, the Russians come in and build the port city of Dalny. Then, from 1905, it becomes the Japanese industrial center called Dalian. After the war, it was known as Luda. And finally, since 1984, it's been the open, international city of Dalian. Every single one of these eras left its fingerprint.
And this is where things get really interesting. See, Dalian's DNA is just different. Most traditional Chinese cities grew organically, usually built around a kind of grid system. But Dalian? Nope. It was a planned creation from the get-go. Its Russian designers basically dropped a European city model onto the coast, a big central square with roads shooting out like spokes on a wheel. It was all inspired by the Garden City idea, which focused on green spaces and open planning. And this quote just nails it. The central element became the current Zhongshan Square, from which, like the Place de l'Étoile in Paris, 10 streets radiate outwards. I mean, you can literally see that Parisian blueprint on the map even today. It's fascinating.
Okay, so that wild history laid the groundwork for the Dalian we see today. So for part 3, let's look at its modern role as the engine of the Northeast, because it is a true economic powerhouse.
You might think of Dalian as just an old industrial city, right? Shipbuilding, heavy machinery, that kind of thing. But the modern city has this incredibly diverse economy. Yeah, you've still got high-end manufacturing and petrochemicals, but now you have this huge finance and logistics sector, a booming IT and software industry, and of course, its historic strength in aquaculture. And if you want to see that economic boom in action, just look at these numbers. The amount of cargo moving through its port, it's just exploded. From 70 million tons in 1997 to almost 250 million tons by 2008. That's not just growth, that's an economic rocket ship. What this all points to is this massive, successful transformation. Dalian has managed to pivot from being part of China's old industrial Rust Belt to becoming what some people call a Silicon Valley of the East. It's now a major hub for IT outsourcing and high tech, especially for companies from Japan and Korea. Okay, we've covered the history, we've covered the economy, but what does it feel like to actually be there, to walk the streets? Let's dive into that in part 4, the City of Squares, and explore its unique urban life.
You remember that unique European city plan we talked about? Well, here's where you really see its legacy in daily life. The entire urban landscape is defined by this incredible number of public squares. They're not just decorations, they're the absolute heart and soul of the city.
And we're talking about some seriously iconic spots here. You've got Zhongshan Square, the historic financial center, just surrounded by these gorgeous old Russo-Japanese buildings. Then you have the total opposite, the massive modern Shanghai Square, which is actually the largest city square in all of Asia, right on the waterfront. And then you find these charming little corners like Fisherman's Wharf that honestly feel like they've been plucked right out of a European port town. So you've got these incredible public spaces, and they all contribute to this special vibe the city has. Which brings us to our final section, where we tie it all together and finally understand what creates that romance by the sea: its climate, its food, and its lifestyle.
A huge piece of the puzzle here is the climate. Because it's on the coast, Dalian kind of dodges the extreme weather you see elsewhere in the region. The summers are just lovely, warm, pleasant, right around 25 Celsius or 77 Fahrenheit, which is why everyone flocks there. And yeah, the winters are cold, but they're often really bright, dry, and sunny.
And come on, a city on the coast? You know the food is going to be amazing. You have to start with the seafood, which is unbelievably fresh. We're talking sea urchin, grilled squid, the works. Then you can get into local specialties like sea urchin dumplings. But the real taste of Dalian street life is this stuff called menzi. It's a crispy pan-fried jelly made from sweet potato starch, and they smother it in this rich sesame and garlic sauce. It is a local obsession, and for good reason.
So you take this amazing climate, you add the incredible food, these beautiful open spaces where people gather. What do you get? You get what the locals call the half-mountain, half-sea lifestyle. It's this perfect blend of natural beauty and a relaxed city vibe that really creates that romantic feeling everyone talks about.
So when you put it all together, you realize Dalian isn't just one thing. It's a city of so many fascinating layers. It's a crucial maritime gateway, a living museum of history, a powerhouse of the modern economy, and at its core, a beautiful, romantic coastal retreat.
And that leaves us with one last question to think about. For a city that has always been so deeply defined by the ocean, what new tides, whether they're economic, cultural, or technological, are going to shape the future for this incredible city of romance?